Hello, Salt Lake. I'm Shifty Hips. Welcome to Game 1 of May Meltdown. Lining up for the action, Devil's Ivy is going to be wearing the star for Wasatch, and Soccer Blue is wearing it for Wydaho. We're just moments away from the excitement. Thumbs up all around. And that rolling whistle means it is time for the action. There's the whistle. Off they go. Ivy takes to the outside, tiptoes out of bounds, pops back in. Soccer Blue bullies their way through the middle of the defenders and takes lead jammer status. And off they go. Quickly on her heels, though, is Devil's Ivy. The pack is moving fast. Soccer Blues got to catch up. We got to race. Everybody's moving, trying to make some space for their jammer to get through. Soccer Blue goes to the inside, steps out of bounds, calls off the jam. 2 quick points for an early lead for Wydaho. 0 for Wasatch. First jam in the books. Roller Bear is going to be wearing the star for Wasatch. And Phantom of the Dropia is the jammer for Wydaho. Defenders are right up at the jam line for the start of this jam. That is the whistle. Both jammers take to the inside. Roller Bears skips to the outside. Shoved out of bounds. Phantom of the Dropia pushes through the middle. Grabs lead jammer status on the outside lane. And on the move, Roller Bear dodging around defenders, gets through. Both jammers are on a scoring pass. Here comes Phantom of the Dropia to the back of the pack. Skips around the outside, scores 4 quick points for Wydaho. And great job controlling the clock there. Score quick and call off the jam. Up next will be Hit and Roll, jamming for Wasatch, and Toaster Brutal for Wydaho. Defenders are starting a bit away from the jammers. They settle back in along the line. Off they go. Toaster Brutal tries to push through the middle. Hits the wall of Wasatch. Skips to the outside. Trying to get through. Hit and roll. Dodges to the outside. Shoved out of bounds. Toaster Brutal hanging on by a toe stop. Can't quite make it. Hit and roll gets flung far out of bounds on the outside lane. He skips back in and crashes back into the wall of Wydaho. Toaster Brutal tries to tiptoe in the inside lane, shoved out of bounds by that Wasatch defense. Both jammers are fighting hard to get through. Hit and Roll makes it past the last defender. Hit and Roll is the lead jammer. And off he goes. Toaster Brutal takes a shove to the inside lane by Lavender Menace. Brutal still trying to get through on that initial pass. Hit and Roll has hit some breaks there by the defenders. Pushes through for 4 points. Coming around on a second scoring pass now. Toaster Brutal finally made it through the defenders and is on a scoring pass now. We've got a penalty called on one of the Wydaho defenders, and Hit and Roll calls off the jam. So 6 points for Wasatch, and that jam bringing us to a tie game. Soccer Blue is going to be wearing the star for Wydaho. Devil's Ivy is up for Wasatch. Wydaho defenders are right up there in Ivy's grill. And the whistle blows. Both jammers try to take to the inside. Soccer Blue gets up to 2 defenders of Wasatch. Past the last defender. Soccer Blue is the lead jammer. Ivy scrambles to catch up, trying to get past those defenders. Still can't quite make it. Soccer Blue jukes to the inside. 4 quick points for Wydaho. Ivy's recycled back. And now back into play. Soccer Blue takes the inside lane again. Hits a couple defenders. They slow her down. Ivy makes it past the final Wydaho defender. And right away, Wydaho ends the jam. So 4 points there for Wydaho. And we've got an official timeout for official things, which gives us a minute to talk about one of our sponsors, the Pie Pizzeria. You may have heard of them if you're from Utah. They've been a sponsor of roller derby in the valley here for quite a number of years. Delicious pizza. If you see one of their locations, drop in, grab some good food. Generous toppings. There's no such thing as like a light topping pizza from the Pie. Also, Radio from Hell, Carrie, Bill, and Gina in the mornings with X96. They are a sponsor of roller derby here this year. You can catch them on the radio, on podcasts, streaming, all those different ways that you get it. And back to the roller derby action. Phantom of the Droppy is jamming for Wydaho. Tries to take to the outside lane. Can't quite get it. Oh, makes it past, though. Wydaho has lead jam. Roller Bear stumbled and didn't quite make it in front, but has quick on Phantom of the Droppy's heels. So both jammers skating fast. Droppy is going to try to score some points here before Roller Bear catches up. And flying to the floor, Droppy calls the jam off. And it looks like 2 points scored for Wydaho and 1 for Wasatch there. Wydaho with a modest lead, up 16 points to 7, which can change in the blink of an eye in roller derby. Toaster Brutal will be jamming for Wydaho. Hit and roll is up for Wasatch. Off they go. Hit and roll takes a very direct approach, tries to shove through the defenders, gets nudged out of bounds. Toaster Brutal getting shoved out by Krasnak. Hit and roll found an opening, will be the lead jammer. And we got a penalty called on Wasatch defender Rails, headed to the penalty box for forearm penalty. Hit and roll still almost made a pass, but gets recycled way back. But that's all right. He's got time to kill. He is still on a scoring pass. We got a star pass for Wydaho. Cherry grabs the star, and hit and roll decides we're going to end it right there. So 4 points for Wasatch out of that one. Wydaho is going to have a slight advantage at the start of this jam with one Wasatch defender in the penalty box. Devil's Ivy jamming for Wasatch. Soccer Blue for Wydaho. There's the whistle. Ivy takes to the outside. Soccer Blue does as well. Both jammers get nudged out and recycled back. Both teams' defense doing a great job. And Soccer Blue found an opening in the inside lane, takes the lead jammer status. Devil's Ivy skips to the inside as well through a hole and is on a scoring pass. So Soccer Blue trying to catch up to the pack, score some points. Devil's Ivy about straight away behind. Soccer Blue calls off the jam in the middle of the defenders. And looks like 3 points there for Wydaho. Great defense so far from both teams, making it hard to score points. Really putting the pressure on the jammers to exercise that clock authority, stop the jam and keep the other team from gaining momentum. Roller Bear is going to be jamming for Wasatch. Phantom of the Dropya for Wydaho. Roller Bear charges through the center, doesn't quite make it. Dropya takes to the inside lane, finds an opening and is the lead jammer. So Dropya approaches the pack. Roller Bear's made it through on a scoring pass now, but has about a quarter of a track to catch up. Phantom of the Dropya falls to the ground and wildly calls off the jam from the floor. And it looks like Wasatch squeaked out one little point. Wydaho 1 point before the end of the jam. So the score is looking Wydaho with a 9-point lead over Wasatch. Starting jam number 9 right now. Hit and roll will jam for Wasatch. Cherry is up for Wydaho. Both jammers go to the outside. Hit and roll, ducks to the inside. Tiptoes around his own teammates. Gets stuck there on the Wydaho wall. Trying to get through. Cherry's approaching the wall of Wasatch. Charges to the inside. Can't find an opening. Goes to the outside. No openings there. Side to side, trying to get those defenders off. Hit and roll, having a heck of a time getting past Wydaho as well. And Lavender Menace comes in to provide a little support. Makes a little opening for hit and roll, but not big enough. Still fighting desperately. Finally, hit and roll makes it through after 40 seconds of pushing and shoving. So hit and roll is the lead jammer. Coming up on the pack now. Cherry is down to last couple defenders. And hit and roll hits the deck and calls the jam off from the floor. With us today. We also want to thank Big Willie's, the official sponsor of Wasatch Roller Derby for 2026. It's a sports bar. They've got drinks, food, pool tables, and roller derby people after the games. So still a little bit of change left on the timeout timer, but both teams are ready to go. Soccer Blue is going to be jamming for Wydaho. Devil's Ivy up for Wasatch. The defenders are right there at the jam line. No personal space allowed when you're the jammer. And the defenders sink down for impact, and here come the jammers. Soccer Blue shoves their way through and takes the lead jammer status, and off and running. Already back. Wydaho bridging far and wide to get Ivy recycled back to the jam line, and Ivy's pinched between two defenders. Meanwhile, Soccer Blue slips through the crowd for 4 points for Wydaho. Ivy fighting desperately to get by. Little flying jump for Soccer Blue. Sweeps past the defenders for 4 more points. And Ivy is on a scoring pass now. Putting the brakes on Soccer Blue a little bit. And Soccer Blue decides we're going to end this. Calls off the jam. So 8 big points for Wydaho. Pushing the lead up to 17 points ahead. Starting out jam 11, Roller Bear wears the star for Wasatch. Phantom of the Dropia is going to be at the line for Wydaho. There's the whistle, a little pause at the line, and Roller Bear takes a hard hit from 808 defender on Wydaho, but quickly back into action. Phantom slips past the Wasatch defenders is the lead jammer. Roller Bear is on the move too. Both jammers on scoring passes. About quarter of a track between them. Phantom slips by some defenders and calls the jam off. Looks like they got 3 points for Wydaho and 0 for Wasatch. Looks like we have an empty penalty box, so everyone who can be on the track is on the track. Hit and roll is going to be jamming for Wasatch. Cherry's up for Wydaho. Both jammers approach cautiously. Take to the inside lane, trying to make some openings there. Hit and roll swings to the outside. Lateral movements, trying to get by. Stuck up on those Wydaho defenders. Cherry having a hard time getting past. Hit and roll, hop, skip, and jump. Out in front now will be the lead jammer. And on a scoring pass. Heard a whistle on the track. It looks like a Wydaho defender is headed to penalty land for a half minute of solemn self-reflection. Hit and roll shoves through for 4 more points. Coming up on the back of the pack, looking to score some more. Puts on the gas, blasts through the defenders, and grabs 4 more points for Wasatch. Wasatch defenders making it very difficult for Cherry to get through or past the star. Hit and roll, blast through, grabs 4 more points. We got a star pass. That is Toaster Brutal on the move and did her job well. Forced hit and roll to call the jam off. So huge jam there for Wasatch, 12 points, bringing the lead down to 8 points. Separating the two teams. Wydaho's 31 points, Wasatch 23. Devil's Ivy will jam for Wasatch. Soccer Blue for Wydaho. Off they go. Soccer Blue finds daylight on the outside lane, takes it. Soccer Blue is the lead jammer and flying around all alone. Coming up on a scoring pass. Devil's Ivy slips past on the inside lane. Will be on a scoring pass as well. Soccer Blue tiptoeing on the ropes. And, headed to the penalty box. We got a power jam, folks. 30 seconds with no Wydaho jammer. Big pressure on the defense to keep Ivy from getting past. Ivy makes it through. Ivy is on a scoring pass. We've got a Wydaho defender headed to the box as well. So Wasatch defenders on the move, trying to break a hole in the Wydaho wall. And Ivy makes it past last defender. 4 points for Wasatch. Moving fast, trying to make the best of that power jam time before the other jammer comes back on the track. Ivy tries to get through. We've got Soccer Blue back from penalty land. There is no lead jammer because of the penalty situation, so we're going to go the full 2 minutes on this one. Ivy breaks through, grabs 4 more points for Wasatch. Soccer Blue getting bullied out of bounds there on the outside lane. And it looks like we've got 2 players. No, just one. One BIP going to the penalty box for Wasatch. Ivy trying to shove on the inside lane. Can't make an opening. Soccer Blue trying to get past those defenders. We've got one Wasatch defender headed to the penalty box. And Soccer Blue takes advantage of that. Busts through the pack for 4 points. Now we got a little jammer on jammer action. Here as the clock winds down. And that's the end of 2 minutes. Big jam there for Wasatch. We got our first, well, technically second lead change of the game. Wasatch in the lead now. 39-35. Wasatch in the lead, but just by a hair. Roller Bear is going to be jamming for Wasatch. Phantom up for Wydaho. Defenders settle in. Off they go. Phantom into the middle of the wall. Lateral movement. Shakes off one defender. Tries to regroup. Pass the other one. Down to one defender left. Grabs the lead jammer status, but nudged out of bounds. So they are recycled back. Roller Bear takes an opening. Swings through. Is on a scoring pass now. We've got 2 Wydaho defenders in the box. We've got Wydaho jammer going to the box. We got a power jam, folks. Roller Bear on the move. Hauling butt out there with 2 defenders down and a jammer down. Bears only got 2 to beat. Slips through between the middle of them. 4 more points for Roller Bear. Running it. We've got a Wydaho defender going to the box. 1 defender to get past. Roller Bear does it. Stumbles, but back on her feet. 4 more points. Cherry is back from penalty land for Wydaho. Jammer is back from Wydaho's penalty box. The green jerseys are piling back up. Roller Bear hits the deck, gets back up. Phantom of the drop ya, grabs 4 points. Roller Bear grabs 4 more points. We're going the full 2 minutes on this one again. 30 seconds left in the jam. Folks are respawning from the penalty box. And it looks like Phantom getting recycled back. Roller Bear tries to make a breakaway and is shoved out of bounds, recycled way back. Got to catch up now. Got Phantom shoved it out of bounds in the outside lane. Roller Bear puts on the gas, can't quite make it. Hits the deck and the clock expires. 20 monster points for Wasatch in that jam. 8 points for Wydaho. And we've got an official timeout going on. The score sits 59 points, Wasatch 43, Wydaho. Now, folks, while you're here, hopefully you're going to be here for a number of games with us today. You might need a little caffeine, a little refueling. Probably should stop by Witch's Brew Coffee just outside our front door. They've got a coffee truck out there. Grab you some caffeinated deliciousness. Keep you fueled for the whole duration of today's tournament. We have a number of vendors here, which you should definitely check out since you obviously are going to be here the whole day with us. We're going to have Empanadas 801 here, bringing Peruvian cuisine to Utah. We've got an official review being called now. So for you folks at home, official review is each team gets 1 official review per half of the game. Basically, it is their chance to object to a call made by the officials or point out something they think the officials missed. The coach or captain will plead their case to the officials. The officials will discuss, and they will tell us. Usually I'm the last to know. Well, second to last, because once I know, I will let you know. And while they discuss, we might have a little dance break here. And let's see, it was Wasatch who called the official review. So Coach Effin is up pleading his case to Prince Albert, one of the skating officials. So we're going to see what happens. Coach Effin does have a pretty good record with his official reviews. He's pretty shrewd about using them. He's got a keen eye, and he has some enthusiastic words to share up there. So it looks like he has made his statements, and the officials are congregating now to figure out what to do about it. In the meantime, folks, while we're here, let's talk about a couple vendors that you might see here at the tournament. Wicked Little Clay Company. They make polymer clay jewelry and custom designs. So in between games or during breaks like this one, head over, check out their wares. We also have High Noon Glass Works. They make cute, quirky, and modern stained glass. Check them out while you're here. Christina Wells, the ceramic artist exploring form, texture, and color. She does small batch wheel thrown and hand-built pottery ceramics here in Utah. We also have Zapples. That is so fun to say, Zapples. Family-owned and operated business. They make caramel apples and caramel treats. So if you have braces, sorry, but everyone else, you can enjoy some caramel apples. Delicious. Grab you some sugary, appley deliciousness. Alrighty. Prince Albert is explaining to the both coaches what the verdict is. We will have that momentarily. And looks like Wasatch will retain their review. So basically what that means is the officials agreed with the call that Coach Effin from Wasatch was looking for, which is that Wydaho is not lead jammer, and so there are 4 points that were scored that should not have been scored. So that score has been adjusted, and we are back to the action now. So we got Toaster Brutal jamming for Wydaho. Hit and roll for Wasatch. Hit and roll trying to bully. Does bully his way through the middle of Wydaho's defenders. And on the move, Wasatch defender Krasnak hits the deck, flown off of Toaster Brutal. Brutal gets shoved out of bounds, recycled back. Hit and roll is on a scoring pass. Stumbles through on the inside lane for 4 points. And on the move, Toaster Brutal is headed to the penalty box. So we've got Power Jam, 30 seconds with only one jammer for one team. Hit and roll is going to try to make the best of that. But first, he's going to have to get past all those defenders. Tiptoeing past and does make it past. So 4 hard-earned points for Wasatch as one Wasatch defender heads to the penalty box. Hit and roll back to the pack. Tries to shove through. Can't shove through. Up against 3 defenders. Skips to the inside lane. Makes it. 4 more points for Wasatch. And look out. Toaster Brutal is back on the track. Crashes into the wall of Wasatch. Hit and roll. Shoving up against tripod from Wydaho. Hanging on by a toe stop. Can't hang on long enough. He's shoved out. Hops back in. Trying hard to get past. Shoves in the inside lane. Makes it. 4 points for Wasatch. We got a star pass for Wydaho. Handoff to number 9, Mel Adjusted. Mel Adjusted is going to be the new jammer. Looks like they are stuck behind Wasatch's wall, though. Hit and roll crashes through. Knocks down a defender or 2. And decides to call the jam off. After grabbing 16 big points. 20 big points. 20 points. Boy, howdy. So, Wasatch takes a 40-point lead for the moment. In the world of roller derby, that is not a big enough lead to be comfortable with. That can end in 1 or 2 jams. So, we have an official review called by Coach Effin of Wasatch. So earlier I said each team gets 1 of those per game, or per half. If the officials agree with the coach, they retain their review. So that means they have that review to call again some other time in the half. So that is what is happening. And who knows what's going on. Only Effin and the Reffins. And sometimes the coaches will use this as just a breather for their team. And if that happens, then they lose it. But after the next half, they get another one back. So we've got 9 minutes, 34 seconds left in the first half. That rolling whistle means that's the end of the official review. So it looks like FN was using that as a timeout, which is a smart move because you only get 3 regular timeouts. No refreshing on those. So looking at an empty penalty box. So that means we've got about 80 wheels on the track, 10 skaters, and just kidding, now it's official timeout. Everyone's all lined up, ready to go, waiting for the thumbs up from all the reffing staff. All right, back to the action. Next whistle starts the play. There they go. Ivy jamming for Wasatch and Soccer Blue for Wydaho. Both jammers are shoving hard against opposing teams' defenders. Trying to get it through. Soccer Blue gets past a few defenders. Tiptoes on the inside lane. Past the last one. Soccer Blue is the lead jammer. Ivy still trying to get past those defenders, crashes into a couple, tiptoes along the inside lane, and is on a scoring pass now. Soccer Blue swings to the outside lane, grabs those 4 points, and calls the jam off. So 4 quick points for Wydaho. Fresh complement of skaters on the track. Roller Bear jamming for Wasatch. Phantom of the Drop Ya for Wydaho. The defenders are far, far away from the jam line. Let's see what these jammers do with a little runway. Defenders settle in, shortening the runway. Roller Bear dodges to the outside. Crashes into the wall, Wydaho. Side to side, shakes off 2 defenders. Still 2 left to beat. Soccer Blue trying to get past these last defenders. Can't quite make it. Roller Bear stumbling over a foot and does make it past the defenders. So Roller Bear is going to be the lead jammer. Soccer Blue, Phantom of the Drop Ya runs into Bip and both go to the ground. That's going to send Bip to the penalty box. 30 seconds to think about those life choices. Both jammers having a tough time getting through. Roller Bear dodges around with using her teammates as blockers. Makes it through for 4 points. Phantom almost got past the pack, but fell to the out of bounds on the inside of the track. So she's got to recycle and try again. Roller Bear shoved out of bounds. Pops back in. Phantom looking to the outside lane. No room there. Roller Bear gets past. 4 points for Wasatch. We got a star pass. Mel Adjusted is the new jammer for Wydaho. Putting on the burners now, trying to catch up. Roller Bear crashes between defenders, calls the jam off. Grabbing a few more points. So a total of 11 for Wasatch on that last jam. 0 points for Wydaho. We're sitting at 90-43 in favor of Wasatch. And Wydaho will have a slight advantage here at the start with 1 defender in the box for Wasatch. Ivy jamming against Cherry. Cherry goes out in front. Side to side, trying to dodge around the defenders. Goes to the inside, doesn't make it. Tries again, recycled to the back of the pack. Ivy finds an opening, takes it. Ivy's going to be the lead jammer. And Cherry is headed to the penalty box for Wydaho. So we got a little power jam situation here. 30 seconds with Ivy as the only star-headed jammer on the track. Dances to the inside and out of bounds. She pops back in. Takes an opening. 1 defender left. Goes down on 1 knee, but pops back up for 4 points. For Wasatch. We've got the pivot headed to the box now for Wydaho. Little penalty trouble there. Ivy shoved out of bounds. Got to go back. Cherry is back from penalty land for Wydaho. Ivy's getting recycled back to the top of the track. So Ivy coming in, crashing into a couple defenders. Got a little pile up there in lane 3. Looks like everyone's all right, though. Back on their feet. Ivy dodges past the last defender. We got 4 more points for Wasatch. And Cherry getting put in a pinch by the Wasatch defenders. Having a heck of a time getting through. Ivy swings around. Down to 2 defenders left. We've got skates and ladders headed to penalty land. Ivy did not quite make it. Recycled back. And we got all kinds of people in and out of the penalty box. Ivy finds her way past the last of the Wydaho defenders to grab 4 more points. And clock running down. That is the end of the jam. We got 12 points on the board for Wasatch. Wydaho is calling an official review with 4 minutes, 10 seconds left. So the coaches go to the center to hear the official review challenge, complaint, thing. Now, folks, obviously you like roller derby because you are here. If you want some more roller derby, we're going to have a little bit of derby action at FitCon next weekend. Saturday, May 30th at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. There's going to be games at noon o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. So that should be fun and exciting if that's your jam, and it probably is because you're here. Go check them out. Show some love for the local teams at FitCon next weekend. On June 20th, Wasatch Roller Derby is having a fundraiser type thing, partnering with Anchor Tattoo on 1576 South State Street. So starting at 11, there's going to be some flash tattoo. So you can get some Derby or Pride themed tattoos during Flash. It's walk-ins welcome. Proceeds will be going to help out Wasatch Roller Derby. So go show some love at Anchor Tattoo June 20th. Put it on your calendar. Get some cool ink. Also June 20th, that is a Saturday here in the evening, Beehive Skate Revolution will have their last bout here in the depot. We don't know the time, we don't know the theme, but we do know it's going to be good derby action. You're not going to want to miss it. We'd like to thank Pit Viper Sunglasses for sponsoring roller derby in Salt Lake City. Pit Viper flag has been on the wall for a bit of time here at the Derby Depot. And 1 minute, let me see what the word is from the officials on this official review. All righty, that rolling whistle means it's time to get back to the action. The verdict from that official review is Wydaho will lose their review. So that means that the officials did not agree with the thing the coach was calling for. So both coaches out of reviews until the next half begins. Roller Bear taking an early lead as the lead jammer, and quick as he likes, she's back to the pack, trying to crash through those defenders to score points. Dances to the inside, taking some arms and shoulders from defenders. Soccer Blue scrambles past and gets past the last defenders, trying to put the brakes on Roller Bear there. Bear is on a scoring pass. I believe Soccer Blue is as well. Bear hits the deck. Soccer goes through. And we've got a little confusion on the track. And Roller Bear gently reminded by her teammates that she was lead jammer, so she calls the jam off. So Wasatch pulls 4 points out of that jam. 0 for Wydaho. We're down to 3 minutes left in the first half. Wasatch sitting at 108 points. Wydaho at 43. Lined up on the jam line, hit and roll for Wasatch, and Phantom of the Drop Ya for Wydaho. There's the whistle. Drop Ya casually goes through, crashes into the wall of Wasatch, dances to the outside, shakes off a couple defenders, 2 left to beat, 1 left to beat. Phantom scrambling hard, gets past Colonel Skirts. Phantom of the Drop Ya will be the lead jammer, and we got a power jam, folks. Hit and roll is headed to the penalty box, and Colonel Skirts. We got 2 Wasatch players in penalty land. Meanwhile, Phantom of the Drop Ya shoves through the last 2 defenders to grab 4 points for Wydaho. And here they come, looking to the inside lane, stumbles to the outside, quick back up on their feet. Phantom trying to dance through the defenders, takes one off and decides to call the jam off. Very strategic call by Wydaho. So we're going to be starting this jam, Wasatch, with 2 key players in the penalty box. 2 key positions, I should say. That's the pivot and the jammer. So we got a power start for Wydaho. Both Wasatch players are on their feet, though, so that means there's 10 seconds or less left on their penalties. Toaster Brutal all alone at the jam line. Heads out, and hit and roll is back from penalty land. Brutal makes it through, though. Toaster Brutal, lead jammer. Hit and roll, puts on the gas, takes it through the inside lane. Flying Toaster Brutal over the apex, 4 points for Wydaho, and quickly calls the jam off. Sweet move, jumping over the apex and ending the jam. Great way to control the clock and the momentum. So 4 quick points for Wydaho. None for Wasatch in that last jam. Under a minute left on the game clock for the first half. Devil's Ivy will jam for Wasatch. Soccer Blue for Wydaho. No one in the penalty box. Off they go. Soccer Blue to the inside. Swings to the outside. Shoved out of bounds by Colonel Skirts. Quickly back into play. Ivy trying to dance around the tripod. Wydaho tripod holding strong. No room for Ivy to get through. Trying to get through the inside. Swings to the outside. Soccer Blue crashes into Rails and hits the deck. Rails going to recycle Soccer Blue to the jam line. Ivy down to 1 defender left. Fancy footwork gets past. Ivy is the lead jammer for Wasatch. Regulation time is over, so it is up to Ivy to decide when this jam and this half end. Soccer Blue going way back, and Ivy's just going to call the jam off. None of that. So that's the end of the first half of play. 108 points for Wasatch, 54 for Wydaho. Great game so far. Plenty more action. We got 15 minutes of break time, so grab a snacky. Just under a minute till the action resumes, folks. Finish your business. Come on back. Grab your sweet treats. Check out your merch. We got another jam-packed half hour of action here, starting just moments away. Alrighty, back to it. Starting off jam one of the second half, Devil's Ivy jamming for Wasatch. Soccer Blue up for Wydaho. Soccer Blue takes the early lead. He's going to grab lead jammer status. Ivy squeezes past the last defender and is on a scoring pass. Soccer Blue slams into the wall of Wasatch. Scrambles, tries to get past. Ivy catches up. Blue calls off the jam. 3 points out of that one. 3 points for Wydaho. 1 for Wasatch. We're going to have Phantom of the Drop You jamming for Wydaho and Roller Bear jamming for Wasatch. Wydaho defenders right up at the line. When the whistle blows, both jammers take to the inside. Roller Bear swings to the outside, finds open air, takes it. Roller Bear's lead jammer. And moving fast. Got a little pile up in the middle of the track. 3 skaters down. Play is still on. Roller Bear slips through the chaos. One Wasatch defender headed to penalty land. Everyone's back on their feet, though. Bear coming in fast, the outside lane. Has to slow down for the wall of Wydaho. Hits the deck. Popping back up. And shoving hard, trying to get past. Not an inch of breathing room, though. Looks like Phantom of the Drop You squeezes through, though. Makes it past. Roller Bear slams into Cherry. Takes Cherry down. Roller Bear headed to the penalty box. We got a power jam at a critical time. Bear was trying to call off the jam, but incurred a penalty first. So Phantom of the Drop You is going to have 30 seconds of alone time to try to score without that pesky Wasatch jammer in the way. So here they go. Wydaho defenders trying to make a hole for Phantom to get through. Phantom stuck in the middle. Dodges to the outside, trying to get through, pushing hard. Those defenders are trying to make space. It's a tight cluster there in the middle. And Phantom does make it through. Roller Bear back on the track, but because the penalty is not to the lead jammer anymore, so we will take this to the full 2 minutes, which there's only 10 seconds left. Both jammers on scoring passes. Bear moving fast, trying to get some last-minute points. Phantom gets 4. Bear cruising through. Let's see if she got any before the whistle. Yes, indeed, 1. So 9 points for Wasatch out of that jam. 12 for Wydaho. Wasatch with a healthy lead over Wydaho, but certainly not big enough to be comfortable. Score sits at 119-69. Toaster Brutal jamming for Wydaho. Up against Hit and Roll for Wasatch. Jammers take the opposite ends. Hit and Roll swings to the inside. Down to one defender left. Makes a pass. Hit and Roll is the lead jammer. Moving quickly. Star pass is successful. B.O.B. grabs the star. And Hit and Roll crashes into Wydaho. Makes a pass. scores the points, calls the jam, and BOB did their job well. When you get that star pass, you got to haul butt and force the other jammer to call the jam off. So great work there. Held it to 4 points for Wasatch. We have an empty penalty box, so 10 skaters on the track. Devil's Ivy jamming for Wasatch. Soccer Blue up for Wydaho. That's the whistle. Both jammers trying to be aggressive to get through. Ivy down to one defender. Makes it Ivy's the lead jammer. Soccer Blue almost had it, but nudged out of bounds. That'd be recycled to the back of the pack. So while Soccer Blue is almost through on the initial pass, Ivy recycled back. And looks like Soccer Blue is headed to the penalty box. We got a power jam. 2 skaters hit the penalty box. 1 jammer for Wydaho and 1 pivot for Wasatch. Ivy hits the deck hard. And still good. So Ivy gets through with 4 points, drawing a forearm penalty from number 15 on Wydaho. Ivy trying to get through. Doesn't get it. Down to the last defender, which is Cherry. Jukes past. Ivy scores 4 more points. And Wasatch defender Krasnak is headed to penalty land. Colonel Skirts is back in the mix. Slams up against the defenders. Quick steps by Ivy. Takes her to the outside lane. Gets past for 4 more points. And Ivy's back at it. Soccer Blue also on the track. Ivy tiptoeing on the outside lane for 4 points past Wydaho. Soccer Blue shoved out of bounds and recycled back by Colonel Skirts. Blue back on the track. Ivy slams into the defenders. Soccer Blue makes it through. Now on a scoring pass. Ivy, quick feet, shoved out of bounds and calls the jam off. So looks like 19 points for Wasatch, and that jam taking their score to 142. 69 points for Wydaho. Very physical jams. This is great derby to watch, folks. Roller Bears up the line for Wasatch. Phantom of the Drop You for Wydaho. Roller Bears wings inside, gives to the outside, back to the inside, nudged out of bounds. Phantom trying to get through. Stuck behind 2 Wasatch defenders. Pivot comes in for some help. Phantom down to 1 defender left. Pushing hard, trying to get past Bip. Bip shoves her out of bounds on the inside. Recycled back. But Roller Bear heads to the penalty box. So we got a power jam. 30 seconds with no Wasatch jammer. Phantom of the Drop You does still have to get past these defenders, though. And that is a wicked tripod to try to get past. Crouching in hard and squeezing tight. Drop You nudged out of bounds on the inside. Recycled back to the back of the pack. Phantom back in. Swings to the inside. Crashes through some defenders. Wasatch defenders regroup around. Phantom trying hard to get past. Trying to go. We got a star pass. Off to BOB. Almost made it. BOB hits the deck. Roller Bear gets through. Back from penalty land. On a scoring pass now. And BOB got it through. So BOB is the jammer for Wydaho. Bears still up jamming for Wasatch. Gets past there. 4 points for Wasatch. Time to move. Less than 30 seconds left in the jam. And BOB made it through for 4 points. Bear skips past the last defender on the outside lane. Grabs 4 points for Wasatch. BOB approaches the pack. Goes to the inside, or the middle lane. Stumbles past 2 defenders. 1 to beat. Does so. BOB 4 points for Wydaho. Roller Bear nudged out of bounds, and that is the end of the jam. Time expired. Great work there by both teams' defense. We got 10 points for Wasatch out of that one, 8 for Wydaho, and we have an official review called by Wasatch. 20 minutes left in this game. As with before, the Wasatch coach and the Wydaho coach both are going to go out. Effin will plead his case to the refs, and we will find out whenever we find out. Thanks for coming out to join us today for roller derby action. We want to thank our sponsors, Pit Viper Sunglasses, Radio from Hell show on X96, Big Willie's, and The Pie Pizzeria. And thank you, everyone, for coming out to support local roller derby. Thank you to the fans, to the volunteers. This doesn't happen without community efforts, and it is a great community to be part of. So the officials are huddled up to discuss, try to figure out what to do about things. Like to let you know that in about a month, the end of June, Wasatch Roller Derby is going to have a Pride-themed bout, the Big Gay Bout, on June 27th. This will be the very last roller derby game here in the Derby Depot in Salt Lake. We are looking for a new home for roller derby. Be assured the roller derby will still happen, but it won't be here. All right, folks, we got the verdicts. I misspoke earlier. That was Wydaho calling the official review. They were looking for a forearm penalty on the Wasatch Jammer. None of the officials saw it, so the review is lost, and we are back to the action. Hit and roll, scrambling, trying to get past the wall of Wydaho, and does so on the outside lane with some quick footwork. So hit and roll is the lead jammer. Toaster Brutal wears the star for Wydaho. Hands it off to Cherry, though, so Cherry is the new jammer for Wydaho. Hit and roll, trying to shove past those defenders and gets shoved right back out of bounds and recycled. Hit and roll gets the word from the coaching bench to call the jam and does so. So 3 points there for Wasatch. None scored for Wydaho. Score sits at 155. Wasatch, 77 Wydaho. 20 minutes of game left. Soccer Blue is jamming for Wydaho. Devil's Ivy up for Wasatch. Both jammers hip to hip at the start. They split. Ivy goes to the inside lane and stopped in traffic. Soccer Blue charges through the middle of the track and makes it. So Soccer Blue's lead jammer on a scoring pass now. Ivy still has to get past all those defenders, and they are making it very hard for that to happen. Ivy trying to get past the tripod of Wydaho. No luck. Soccer Blue tries to escape through the inside lane, stumbles to the ground, goes out of bounds, so they're recycled back by speed bump from Wasatch. Soccer Blue tries to put on the gas and get through, does so, and calls the jam off just as Poison Ivy, or Devil's Ivy, got through and was starting a scoring pass. So 4 points for Wydaho, none for Wasatch. We got an empty penalty box, folks, so that means 10 players on the track. Roller Bear is going to be jamming for Wasatch. Phantom of the Drop here for Wydaho. Wydaho defenders are close up to the jammers. There's the whistle. Colonel Skirts comes in to put some early pressure on Phantom. Roller Bear hanging on by a toe stop, makes it, stays in bounds, and is the lead jammer. Flying around the track now. Phantom of the Drop, you're trying to get past and is getting sandwiched there between those defenders from Wasatch. We got a quick star pass, though. Off to Cherry. Krasnak tries to get her. Looks like they might have, oh, Krasnak draws a penalty. So, star pass is good. Wydaho on a scoring pass. Roller Bear also on a scoring pass. Roller Bear eyes the pack. Gets past the defenders on the inside lane. And Wasatch coaching bench is saying, run it. Run it. They go. Round and round. Cherry getting points for Wydaho. Roller Bear knocked out of bounds in the inside lane. We got a forearm penalty on one Wydaho defender. So one less person to beat. Roller Bear stumbling, stays upright, gets 4 more points for Wasatch. Cherry swinging around the outside lane, grabs 4 big ones for Wydaho. And on the move, Roller Bear slammed out of bounds on the inside lane by Wydaho. Big hit there from 1101, and Roller Bear calls the jam off. That was a great jam. 13 points for Wasatch, 12 for Wydaho. We have an official timeout being called. "17 minutes of game time left. Looks like we've got a couple Wydaho players in the bench, or in the penalty box at the start of this jam. Looks like we got things sorted out. That might have been the 7th penalty for a Wydaho player. So in the world of roller derby, you get 7 penalties before you are out for the rest of the game. So I believe that's what happened. New jam has started. Hit and roll. Makes a breakaway. Grabs the lead jammer status. And Soccer Blue hanging on by a toe stop there. Stays up. 1 defender left to beat. Trying to get past. Some help from their teammates. And Soccer Blue's got it. Now on a scoring pass. Hit and roll right behind and casually calls off the jam. 4 points added to the Wasatch score, bringing Wasatch to 172. Wydaho 93. Toaster Brutal will be jamming for Wydaho. Devil's Ivy jamming for Wasatch. We've got 1 defender down on Wydaho. There's the whistle. Both jammers struggling to get past those defenders. Ivy finds room on the outside lane, barely gets through. Devil's Ivy is lead jammer. Toaster Brutal finds a wide opening on the outside lane, then takes it. So both jammers on scoring passes. Ivy's down to 1 defender left, spins around, grabs the points, calls the jam off. Was it fast enough before Toaster Brutal could get any points? Yes, it was. 4 points for Wasatch, none for Wydaho. Roller Bear jamming for Wasatch. Phantom of the Drop ya for Wydaho. All the defenders crowding around the jam line here. There's the whistle. Jammers have to stop dancing and get back to the game. Roller Bear tries to go on the outside lane, shoved out of bounds. Gets recycled back to where she started from. Phantom with great lateral movement, trying to get around those defenders. Sucked into the wormhole of Wasatch defense. Roller Bear made it through. Roller Bear is the lead jammer. Phantom trying to get past, trying to hand the star off. Does so. B.O.B. is the new jammer. Meanwhile, Roller Bear scores 4 points. And Bear's going to call off the jam. Keep control of that clock. So 4 points there for Wasatch, holding Wydaho to 0. Score stands at 180 for Wasatch, 93 for Wydaho, and 14 minutes and change left on the game clock. We've got one Wydaho defender in the penalty box, but standing means there's 10 seconds or less left on the penalty. That's the whistle, and the defenders sink back a little bit. Hit and roll. Puts on the gas, though. Grabs lead jammer status. Soccer Blue right behind. Hit and roll, running fast. Calling the jam off with Soccer Blue right on their heels. Were there any points? 1 point. One lonely point for Wasatch from that. That was a quick foot race. Can't blame Hit and Roll for calling that off. Oh, quick shuffle on the track. New skaters hit the track. Devil's Ivy going against Toaster Brutal. Whistle blows. Ivy to the outside. Brutal to the middle. Ivy finds an opening. Grabs the lead. Jammer status. Toaster Brutal trying to get past. 3 defenders left. 2 defenders left. 1 defender left. Brutal makes it through. Toaster Brutal on a scoring pass now. Devil's Ivy completes the first scoring pass there, grabs 4 points, and calls the jam off. And Wasatch micromanaging that clock with skill. We got a team timeout for Wydaho. Team timeout. So 1 minute to breathe, folks. And after all this playing, I'm pretty sure these skaters can use that 1 minute of respite. While you're here, folks, I think you should check out Gutter Supply, one of our awesome vendors here. They make dirty, gritty, sloppy custom Zippo lighters. Also, we got Paper Clovers, an independent artist who loves anime, manga, and games, creating cute tchotchkes and doodles and sketch art inspired by 2000s era media. One of our fantastic vendors here in the depot. Also, Lizingas. I'm going to have to swing by and find out how to pronounce that correctly. But they make crafts, non-toxic hand-poured candles, and soaps. Who doesn't need a little candle and soap after roller derby? Everyone. That's who needs it. But rolling whistle means timeout is over. Back to the action. Phantom of the Dropia will be jamming for Wydaho. Roller Bear up for Wasatch. Little traffic jam here right out of the gates. Few people hit the deck. Bear goes sprawled to the floor. Still inbounds, though, and it looks like Roller Bear grabs the lead jammer status. Phantom of the Dropia slides through the inside. 1 knee down, but that still counts as being in play and upright. So both jammers on scoring pass. Not anymore. Roller Bear says the end of that. Grabs 4 points, kills the clock. So taking Wasatch to 189. And Wydaho plateaued at 93 points. The last minute skater change there. Hit and roll, jamming against Soccer Blue. Hit and roll to the outside, swings to the middle, trying to bully through. Does so, pushes right past those defenders. Look out, Soccer Blue made it through as well. On the move, both jammers hauling now, trying to score some points here. We got a Wydaho defender and a Wasatch defender going to the box. Hit and roll calls the jam off. 2 points for Wasatch, none for Wydaho. Got a bit of traffic over at the penalty box. We have 1 for Wydaho, 2, I believe, for Wasatch in penalty land. So it's a little sparse on the track at the start of this jam. Slight advantage going to Wydaho. Ivy against Toaster Brutal. Ivy tiptoes on the inside lane around the last defender's hips and takes the lead. Jammer status. So Devil's Ivy on the move. We got a star pass. Cherry is wearing the star now for Wydaho. Moving quickly. Ivy takes a second to check out the rest of the track. Calls the jam off before Cherry can get to the pack. So we got 3 fast points there for Wasatch. None for Wydaho. 10 minutes left. We still have a Wasatch pivot in the penalty box, but on her feet, so we'll be back to the action soon. Wydaho defender also on their feet in the penalty box. There's the whistle. Roller Bear jamming against Phantom of the Drop Ya. Both jammers kind of stuck here in traffic. Phantom doing a little jammer on jammer action, nudges the Roller Bear out of bounds. Both defenders for both teams back from the penalty box. Roller Bear makes a scramble and gets through the center of the track. So Roller Bear is the lead jammer. Phantom fighting hard, almost makes it, but nudged out of bounds there on the outside lane. So recycled back in, kills the momentum there, but now Phantom's got it. Made it past those last defenders. Phantom of the Drop Ya on a scoring pass. Roller Bear stuck in traffic and has to call the jam off to keep things in line. So 4 points for Wasatch, 0 for Wydaho. Wasatch, 198 points, just nuzzling up there up against the 200 mark. Wydaho sitting at 93 points. We got hit and roll jamming against Soccer Blue. Defenders right up against the line at the start of the jam. Got a little pause here. And in the go. Hit and roll trying to shove through. Can't. Shoved out of bounds in the inside by Wydaho. Comes back in quickly. Quick footwork. Gets through the pack. And hit and roll is the lead jammer. So round the horn. Time to score points. Soccer Blue made it through. So Blue is on a scoring pass as well. Hit and roll. Comes up from the ground, calls the jam off. So 1 little point there for Wasatch, none for Wydaho. Really keeping things in check with the jammers controlling the pace of the game. Devil's Ivy jamming against Toaster Brutal. Looks like penalty box is empty. Everyone who can be on the track is on the track. There's the whistle. A lot of runway for the jammers to get to the defenders. Toaster Brutal goes to the outside, sneaks through. Brutal is the lead jammer and moving fast. Devil's Ivy with a spin move gets past the Wydaho defenders barely. Flying Toaster Brutal over the apex, grabs the 4 points, calls the jam off. And a shift in momentum here the last 10 minutes of the game. Wydaho holding Wasatch scoreless in that last jam. Great footwork there from Toaster Brutal, putting on the Jets. Soccer Blue lined up against Roller Bear at the jam line. Defenders join them. Barely any breathing room. There's the whistle. Roller Bear takes a wide opening on the outside lane, grabs lead jammer. Roller Bear's on the move. Soccer Blue takes a big gaping hole on the inside lane. Both jammers are on scoring passes. Roller Bear in control. Slips through, calls the jam off. We got 3 points for Wasatch, 0 for Wydaho. And that one takes Wasatch over the 200 mark. 202 for Wasatch against 97 Wydaho. 6 minutes and change left on the game clock. Quick change of personnel on the track. 5 against 5. Toaster Brutal against Hit and Roll. There's the whistle. Hit and Roll tiptoes around the outside, grabs lead jammer status. Toaster Brutal swings wide, gets around the Wasatch defenders, and Pack is on the move. Hit and Roll at the back of the pack. Eyeing gets through. One defender left to beat. Calls the jam off. Headed to the ground. And 3 points scored by Wasatch. Called the jam off just in time to prevent Wydaho from grabbing any points there. Quick short jams here. Nobody's getting a very long rest in between. Devil's Ivy back on the track, going against Soccer Blue. Jam begins. Both jammers strain against the defenders. Ivy takes it to the inside, quickly gets past the defenders, grabs lead jammer status. Soccer Blue, lateral movement trying to get past the defenders. Swings to the outside. Ivy's back to the back of the pack. It's a little spin move, backward skating, gets it through. 4 points. No, we got a cut track call. Devil's Ivy goes to the penalty box. We got a power jam. No lead jammer. Soccer Blue, minute and 25 left. 30 seconds of which will be without a Wasatch jammer. So Soccer Blue, with some fancy footwork there, dodging around the Wasatch defenders, gets through for 4 points. And that will put Wydaho over the 100 mark. Minute left in the jam. Soccer Blue eyes the defenders. Slides past a couple, nudged out of bounds. Recycled to the back of the pack. Going in for another. And 4 points for Wydaho. Again, Soccer Blue makes it through. Devil's Ivy is back from penalty land, but without lead jammer status. Ivy crashes into defenders, nudged out of bounds by number 15, Wydaho. Great hip work there. We got pile up here on the outside lane. Ivy scrambles through. 4 points for Wasatch. Soccer Blues recycled back and takes to the inside lane. 4 more points for Wydaho. Ivy's back. Whole set of defenders to get past. Trying to shove through. Dodges between defenders as they try to regroup. 4 more points for Wasatch. Clock's kicking down. Soccer Blue steps out of bounds. Recycled back. Ivy crashes into the last of the defenders, and the clock expires. So 13 big points for Wydaho in that last jam. 9 for Wasatch. So that puts Wydaho at 110. Wasatch, 214. Roller Bear against Phantom of the Drop Ya. Drop Ya takes an early lead, skips out in front. Drop Ya is the lead jammer. Off they go, and Roller Bear recycled way back to before the jam line. So a little bit of time to try to catch up. Phantom of the Drop Ya swings into things, trying to shake these defenders off, going side to side. Defenders pushing their back. Phantom makes it through on the inside lane. 4 quick points there for Wydaho. Roller Bear still trying to get past on that initial. Taken down hard by Wydaho, but pops right back up in the action. Phantom of the Drop Ya flying on 1 foot, falls out of bounds, calls the jam off from the ground. 7 monstrous points for Wydaho. Big jam there for Wydaho. Hit and Roll wears the star for Wasatch. Toaster Brutal wearing the star for Wydaho. We got 1 Wydaho defender in penalty land. Defenders right up at the line for the start of this jam. There's the whistle. Hit and Roll tries to shove through the middle of the crowd. Can't get it. Knocked out of bounds, recycled back. Toaster Brutal down to one last defender, makes it past Toaster Brutal, lead jammer, and hit and roll goes to the penalty box. So we got a power jam here, folks. Toaster Brutal on the move, in control of the clock, spins past and out of bounds. Gonna have to retry that. Brutal back on the track, goes to the outside lane, shoved out of bounds by Colonel Skirts. We got a Wasatch defender headed to penalty land. Brutal back on the track, trying to get through. Toaster Brutal on the outside lane, gets it. 4 points, calls the jam off. But not before hit and roll gets back on the track, so that means Wasatch will have a jammer at the start of this next jam. 33 seconds of regulation time left. Devil's Ivy jamming against Soccer Blue. Slight advantage at the start here going to Wydaho, as we got one Wasatch blocker in the penalty box. That's the whistle. Devil's Ivy goes to the inside, scrambling, takes the lead jammer position, but Soccer Blue is right on Ivy's tail. Both jammers crouch low around the turns. Going in, top of the track. Ivy calls it off. That's the end of regulation time. We've got an unofficial score. Wait until that score changes to final, and then you can come out to the edge of the track to give these skaters a high five. Looking at 215 points, Wasatch, 122, Wydaho. We are waiting on the official whistle from our jam ref, or jam timer. And that's it, folks. Game one is in the books. Winner goes to Wasatch Midnight Terror.